Welcome again to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. We'll go ahead and get started with today's guest. The first question, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Kevin McGee. I'm the president of Anderson Valley Brewing Company. I'm trying not to be a lawyer anymore. And my family bought the brewery in December. And I've been here as CEO and president for the last 4 months. And this is the first time in 25 years I've had one job, and this is going to be my last job. So pretty excited about it.
Well, I'm glad you found what you were looking for, especially if it's a passion. So that's fantastic. Question number 2, what's the best thing about working with a team?
I think the best thing really is that in order to, it's almost, I don't know if it's the best thing, but it's necessary in most circumstances. There's an old saying that you can't do epic things with normal people. And, you really need to develop people and resources around you if you're going to have any kind of meaningful impact. I've gone between being a consultant where basically it was me and I had people that I would draw on for resources, all the way to leading dozens of direct reports, not dozens of direct reports, dozens of employees and direct reports and restructuring businesses and everything. And you really gets to the point where there's only so much time in the day, there's only so much you can do as a person. And so I think the best thing about teams is that they allow you to really multiply yourself, and they're actually necessary if you really want to do something interesting and compelling. And also it gives you an opportunity to interact with people, gives you an opportunity to mentor. Some of the most rewarding things you can really do is to find people that have got talent and could use some encouragement or some direction in order to kind of bring that forward and then help them do that. Because I certainly didn't get here by myself and under force of solo will, and be able to kind of give back a little bit and help other people on their journey is critical. So.
Well, that's a great way to give back too, is to share what you've learned. So thank you for doing that. Question number 3, I hear from other leaders of teams that it can be a challenge to get team members engaged. Tell me your thoughts on that.
I think absolutely it can be a challenge. I think that challenges with engagement can be either, 1 or 2 sources. Usually it's a blend of both. Nothing's ever really kind of black or white. It's usually either it's the wrong people on the team for a leadership style, or it is a leadership style that just doesn't reach the team members. And the biggest obstacle I see from leadership styles not getting traction is that there's a lot of folks that end up succeeding to a leadership role that then think that they have now arrived at some position where everyone around them needs to modify their behavior to adjust to the leader. And it's the converse. If you are presenting yourself as someone that your team needs to study and understand to follow and understand, where you want them to go and how to engage them and motivate them, then you've already kind of lost. You can't rely on people trying to read you and have to put that energy in. You need to observe and learn your people and react to them accordingly. And that's really how you get engagement, is you get invested in the success of your people in a selfless way and try and understand them and where they're coming from, rather than rely on them to sort of go from sort of the bottom up in their motivation and think that just because you're in a position of leadership or a boss that they're going to do something, because it just doesn't, it's not the most, that may happen, but it's not the most effective way to get reliable engagement. And if you do spend the time observing and learning your people and your teams and the interactions, you also can get a lot more reliable evaluation of who's a good fit, who's maybe not necessarily a good fit, where the holes are, and then also, how the interactions in your team are happening and how to either help them, to augment them, or maybe split some people apart that are better off working, in different areas or something else. And then you get an insight into, what resources could help them and unlock, the qualities that you really want to get out of your team. And that's the biggest engagement trick, I think, is make sure you know your people and be genuinely interested in them.
That's great, great insights there. There's so many leaders out there that never really figure that out. So I'm glad that that you feel that way. So thank you.
Well, it's particularly, it just as an example, I mean, quickly here, I mean, I'm basically the new guy at this brewery. I mean, the average tenure of the people here is like more than 10 years. So, trying to come in, and a lot of my background is in turnarounds and repositions and fixing broken business models and stuff like that. And like trying to come in and start engaging with people. If you try and come in as an authoritarian in that environment, it isn't really going to work. What you're going to do is you're going to balkanize people, and then they're going to manage you. They're going to manage information coming up to you, as opposed to the other way around. And I've seen other examples of people coming in and trying to do a command and control type of thing with an established, taking control of an established working group. There's no way you can come in there and effectively do a command and control. I've seen leaders get effectively frozen out of most of what they can be doing, simply not because of what they were asking them to do, but it was the delivery. That's the kind of critical, sort of change, especially with established groups that already have, a little bit of team cohesion by the time you come in, which should probably be like 90% of the time when people end up succeeding to a leadership position. It's not an organization team that they have built. And if you're building it, then you're almost by definition observing and learning your people, because you're bringing them in and interviewing them too.
Mm-hmm. That's a great example. Thank you for sharing that. What other pieces of advice would you give to leaders of teams?
I think the most critical thing is to lead by example. I don't think there's any real alternative way to lead long term. It's the most effective way, maybe the only way, to really get a cultural leadership dynamic in place. And so in order to do that, you have to be visible. You have to arrange for circumstances where your decision making and your behavior is going to be visible and is going to be part of what your team perceives. And that can be everything from making sure that you're interacting with various teams that, these days with Zoom, video conferences are all over the place. I do a weekly video call with my sales team, which are spread all around the country, and make sure that people see me there. And part of it is, you have to act, serious about the things that are to be serious, but also lighthearted about the things that are to be lighthearted. Give people permission to joke, give people permission to be themselves. And, that's one of those things where you just need to arrange to be, on occasion, you need to arrange to be seen as being vulnerable. You need to arrange to be seen as, knowing that you don't know all of the answers, in order to empower people to come up with some solutions. And part of that visibility is also, you can't really manage so well by email. So if there's another piece of advice, it would be get yourself in front of people as much as possible, video or whatever else. There's a study that came out a number of years ago, I forgot where it was, but it shows that people perceive information. 7% is from the actual words that were used, 38% is in tone of voice, and 55% is in body language. So if you're only communicating by email, you've just lost 93% of your opportunity to get your message across clearly. And it provides an enormous opportunity for interpretation and an assumption. And those are anathema to being able to really effectively lead a team. You need to be, clear. Generally, if you are not sick of hearing yourself say the same thing over and over again, you're not repeating it enough. You just continually stay on message. One of the best examples I had was I worked with Jess Jackson, who was the founder of Kendall Jackson, and the family office there. And they had 43 different wine brands, and so I worked with him pretty much every day, all day, for about 8 years, and was able to observe him. He was a company of slightly under 2,000 employees, and international operations, and he's on the Forbes billionaire list. He's a self-made guy, but being able to have the opportunity to follow him around and be in these meetings with him over and over again, you just see how often he repeats the same, it's like, this is the message I want to get across. And in every forum where someone's going to listen to me, I'm going to repeat the same message about we're a family-owned business, and it's quality and grape source. And he had a list of probably about 6 or 7 things that whenever there was like some blank space in a conversation or a room, he would just brilliantly figure out a way to get back to that message point and get that across. And did it in person and did it in front of people, and just was visible in what he was doing and how he was acting, and he got people to see his passion and the way that he communicated this stuff, and he repeated the message over and over again, and it was extremely effective.
Wow, what great examples, and that importance of repetition is absolutely true. That's just something that's so important for all of us. Thank you. Well, last question. Tell us a little bit about your first job.
My first real job was as a ski instructor. When I was 15, I was really I grew up in Buffalo, and I was really into skiing. And I was about to run into the adult lift ticket prices and season pass, and I couldn't afford it. So I figured I'd get a job instead. So I went and tested for it, and in a horrible lapse of judgment, they actually offered me a position. And I was a 15, 16-year-old that was there with the jacket on, doing everything that I could to probably not do any work and just sort of ski for free. And had a supervisor that actually turned me around on that. I had this kind of tying back to my earlier point about pay attention and observe. I had one supervisor that just thought I was a screw up and just figured that they would fire me at the end of the season. And then another supervisor that spent some time getting to know me and, talking to me about, some of the stuff that I like to do and styles of skiing and whatnot, and found a place for me to be teaching mogul skiing and some of the other stuff that I was doing at the time, which was kind of a niche thing. And it really was a very effective way of getting me to be, engaged and involved. And it was something just as simple as, it didn't take long. I mean, it was, he sat down, talked to me like I was an adult, and asked what I was interested in doing, and we figured something out. And it turned me from being an absolute, just waste of space, sucking up an hourly paycheck while I screwed off and probably ruined the brand, to being somebody that actually, gave back, a bunch, and was able to coach and do some stuff, and it made a difference in my life. It made a difference in the way that I thought about myself, and helped the organization too. So that was a lesson that I never forgot.
Wow, that is a great lesson. That's an impressive turnaround that you made under the direction of your supervisor, yes, but you still made the choice to make those changes. So congratulations to you.
Yeah, it was shocking at the time.
Well, we all shock ourselves from time to time, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. How can people find you?
Best way to find me is probably the brewery's website, which is just AVBC, Anderson Valley Brewing Company.com, or go to LinkedIn and search for me. Or if you actually go to Google and you put Kevin McGee beer in, I pop up as the first thing. So those are the most effective ways to find me.
Great. Thank you. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, you can find us on LinkedIn by searching Blue Sky Business Consulting. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great day.